Hey, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday, January 27th Caucus of the Common Council, and our work session. For the record, I'll try to go through. Staff, excuse me, not staff, council members here. Love, Hoey, O'Brien, Farrell, Igo, Ballerin, Conti, Johnson, and I believe that's it at this point in time. Staff, uh, Senior Legislative Aide, Michelle Andre, Research Council, John Raphael Pichardo, Clerk Danielle Gillespie, Corp Counsel Brett Williams is also here, along with staff at DGS, Commissioner, and various staff members. We're going to go through our agenda first, and then we'll get into, well, actually DGS is after that. We don't have a whole lot of stuff on the agenda, so just jumping right in. JR, if anyone pops in, just add them. I'm sure I'll miss them.
Councilwoman Fahey's entering right now.
Okay. Councilwoman Fahey has entered. Okay, on the agenda, we have under public hearings, we have the hearing for ordinance 2092-20 to start the meeting. Under approval of minutes, we have the minutes from our Monday, January 4th of 2021 meeting, which I'll be offering for passage. Moving on to local laws. They're none, they're held. Then on to ordinances. They are also held with the exception of Mr. O'Brien's that will be the subject of the public hearing. It's ordinance 2092-20. Depending on the outcome, we'll be moving forward with that.
Jack Flynn just entered.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question on that one?
Sir?
Am I correct that there was a petition filed on this?
By the property owners against it?
Yes.
Well, there was a petition filed by neighbors for it. And then the two property owners, I don't know if they filed a petition, but they appeared.
Yeah, my question really comes back to, was there a petition filed that triggers a supermajority vote on this?
I think so. Actually, JR can answer that better.
Yeah, and if you could just explain that process to us, JR.
Yeah, no, we received in writing, we received in writing petitions from the two property owners. Per the general cities law, they met one of the prongs. It's either a majority of the, not a majority, at least 20% of the property owners that are being rezoned or a portion within a circle of 100 feet around it. They met the prong of, the property owners who are being zoned. So that's where it triggered the supermajority. So in order for this to pass, it requires 12 council member approval.
Okay, that was really my question. Was the 12 votes?
Thank you for that, Mr. Conti. All right. On to resolutions introduced. This is my pile of paper here. We have resolution 12-2121R by Mr. Hoey regarding the mural agreement. Mr. Hoey, you here? You want to?
Yes, I am. Last week, last meeting, we were going to put the resolution to make do the action on Joe's, on Councilman Igo's advice. I contacted Pat Fahey, our assembly representative, and she asked that we hold off and see what she could do behind the scenes. A couple days later, they're going to move forward, probably starting next week. So I wanted to change it around to a thank you that we appreciate, the agreement being honored. So I just thought it would be a good way to finish it up.
Thank you. That next resolution introduced will be by Ms. Farrell. It's 132121R. It's resolution consented to the elimination of a full-time position in the Office of Human Resources. It's going to be a referral to finance. Okay. Next,
Kelly and
Mhm.
Jenny, as long as we're going to be scheduling a finance committee meeting, I'm thinking that we should get an update on the city's finances generally. I think that we were expecting monthly reports.
It's a very good idea, Judy.
request.
I did request that. I will follow up with the treasurer again.
Yeah, could that also include an impact of the proposed budget, governor's proposed budget on our local aid funding?
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
Okay, you got that, Michelle?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, next, Mr. O'Brien's 142121 regarding the status of Anthony Street. Mr. O'Brien?
Yeah, this is pretty important. What happened, there's a project on 60 Calvin Avenue, an apartment project, and it was heard on December 22nd. The Neighborhood Association and myself both presented the opinion that all of Anthony Street is part of Westland Hills Park. And we presented that, and then as soon as we had presented that, the board turned to Dan Hirschberg, who said, no, it's not part of Westland Hills Park. The park ends at the dog park. And he had no documentation to that effect, but he stated that as a matter of fact. The board agreed with him and went ahead authorizing this project, which utilizes Anthony Street, which you should have all gotten a memo. You got one from Dan Hirschberg on Monday or Sunday night or Monday morning. And then you got one from Hyde Clark and from myself disproving that. Actually, Hyde did a tremendous amount of work. He went back and researched the ordinances in the 1960s and 70s, which created the park. And the ordinance, an ordinance of 1974, basically finished the eastern end of the park, the tennis courts, the pool, the paths, and what later became to be known as Anthony Street as an entrance to the park. So it's pretty well decided now on the basis of the ordinances that the council passed. There was one piece which we couldn't get access to, and that was the various contracts that were let to do the landscaping and development of Anthony Street. Lo and behold, it turns out that Mr. Hirschberg had all of those. We didn't. They're still locked up in archives, and I guess due to COVID, we won't get to see them until the summer. But he tipped his hand in that notice that he sent around to everybody on Sunday night or Monday morning that he had those documents. And lo and behold, those documents in his possession demonstrate that there was funding contracted for the development of Anthony Street as part of Westland Hills Park. Nevertheless, having been in possession of those documents, he misrepresented to the planning board that that was not part of the park, and he based that whole opinion on an old right-of-way for a road, and actually it was originally going to be called Clinton Avenue Extension, that would have run right up through the middle of the park. And it would be preposterous to assume that merely because there was once mapped out a right-of-way for a road, that with the whole construction of Westland Hills Park and specific money authorized by the council to then develop it as an entrance to the park, it is absurd to say that because it once appeared on maps as a right-of-way for a road, that it was never intended to be part of the park. This is very critical because park alienation invites a home rule, needs a home rule message of the council an act of two legislatures and the signature of the governor. And nevertheless, the planning board, based on what Mr. Hirschberg misrepresented to them, went ahead authorizing a commercial access to Westland Hills Park as part of this development. And we asked for, well, several things happened. Council leadership sent a letter to Chris Spencer and to the mayor on January 12th, asking them to look at this situation. We've heard nothing back. I responded to Mr. Hirschberg's note, but Hyde wrote a marvelous, well-researched memo, clearly establishing that it is part of the park. And this memo, the state controller has the authority to make determinations regarding park alienation, whether a park alienation was required or not. So that's what this resolution is. We're under the gun because if there's going to be an Article 78 filed against the planning board, it's got to be filed by February 4th. So Hyde, I mean, this memorandum constitutes the basis for Section Article 78, but Hyde writes it for settlement purposes only. Sent it to the mayor, sent it to everybody that Mr. Hirschberg had sent his emails to. And Dave Gallen at 8 a.m. this morning responded that he received it and that he would, quote, be getting back to Hyde, quote, soon. Hasn't happened yet. So I would think that if the city is really interested, and they should be, in what the true status of the entrance to Westland Hills Park is, that they would respond quickly, respond honestly, and that they would send this matter, this resolution, over to the state controller to make a determination if the city's not able to make that determination itself. And in the meantime, hold off, which is what was requested in the January 12th unanswered letter, that they would hold off issuing any permits to go forward with that apartment house having a direct access to Westwood Hills Park. I think it's very important. I think it goes to the heart of what parks are. It goes to the heart of what the planning board is supposed to do. And quite frankly, the bottom line is, I think there has been much too close, I would even call it incestuous relationship between developers and our planning department. We saw that in the plasma issue, and we're seeing it now in the wholesale surrender of a park for the purpose of a commercial development. So I can't emphasize how important this is.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien, for that thorough description. It was my intention to have it go to planning for further discussion, but you seem like you want to try to move it quicker. But Mr. Conti, you look like you were trying to add.
Yeah, just a quick question. A lot of information there, and I'm really not up on all of it. But you mentioned the letter that leadership sent.
Yes.
That was not responded to. I thought, and Kelly, or
It was.
corrected, there was a response I saw from Chris
Yeah,
Spencer.
from Mr. Spencer.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't
believe
see
was
that.
sent
What
out
did he
to everyone.
say?
That was
I
sent
never-
out to everyone, wasn't it?
Yeah,
When did he respond?
like in a couple in short order, really. That's what I'm actually going under the impression that you saw that and that was what your response was.
No, I haven't seen
part
Chris
two.
Spencer's response. And did he say that they would hold off on until they could examine the issue of
No.
whether it needs park alienation? Or did he just dismiss it?
Kind of dismissed it, but the thing is, I again, I was working off the impression that
No, I never
we
saw
had
it.
conversations and I thought you were responding to it. So, but the timeliness, you mentioned time crunch.
Time crunch,
Again,
February 4th. February
'cause
4th is the deadline for an Article 78. And it would be, I think, in everybody's interest to settle it. Just what Hyde is asking for is either that they rescind the decision or that we have an agreement to toll the statute of limitations. But I think when an honest look is taken at whether Anthony Street is part of the park, the clear intent of the 1974 ordinance that the council passed is that it is, and that all the contracts that we didn't have a copy of, but the developer's engineer did, clearly show that that was part of the project for the development of the eastern portion of Westland Hills Park. So to me, this was just a naked end run around state law. And there was also an end run around part of the USDO involving such things as 30% buffer landscaping and screening, which they regard the roof as part of the screening and landscaping, which is nonsense. But the real heart of the issue is whether they can do an end run around state law and park alienation, which is exactly what they have attempted to do. And Chris Spencer should be damn well aware of that.
Thank you,
Answered you honestly.
Mr. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Mr. Hoey.
Yeah, I did a search. I can't find a letter from Chris Spencer. So I think the council, if you could, somebody who has it could forward it to the rest of the council.
I'll resend it.
Thank you.
Okay, so just since Mr. O'Brien wants to move ahead with this, are members comfortable with moving ahead with a resolution for Monday without the committee? Okay. All right. Yes, no, I'm getting, some folks are nodding. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll be moving forward with that. Next resolution introduced by Mr. Anani's resolution 1521-21R. It's for the raising the Pan-African flag. You want to say anything, Mr. Anani? It's pretty self-explanatory. But,
That is correct. And I just want to say that, in these times that we're in, particularly over the past couple of months and years, I think it's important that we put Black history at the forefront of our national conversations and let individuals, neighbors, and individuals in the state know the historical impacts that African Americans have made in our city, our state, and also across the country. And I want to thank all the sponsors of this resolution also. Thank you.
thank you. As in the past, we're all co-sponsors, so we're all included there. Next, we have an MC from the Water Department. It's going to be by Ms. Farrell. It's 1621-21. Mr. Simcoe is here to talk about that. Thank you, Bill. You're muted.
I'm muted now.
I-
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're a little low, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the water board is looking to, working with the Municipal Finance Authority, is looking to go out on the bond market and fund $25 million worth of new projects and also refinancing the bonds of 2011 because they can now get a much better interest rate and save some money on the rest of the remaining life of those bonds. So the resolution attached, every time the Finance Authority has new projects and is doing capital projects, there's a financing agreement that has to be changed with the Water Board, the Finance Authority, and the Common Council. And so this is before the Common Council. The Water Board has vetted the projects. They've gone through the secret process. The Finance Authority is ready to do a bond resolution tomorrow at a Finance Authority meeting at 8 o'clock tomorrow. And we have a team of bond counsel and other folks all ready to sell bonds at the end of February so that we can continue our projects. We have somewhat of a different situation in the Water Board and Water Department this year, in that due to some revenues being down, some of the things that we're financing we would normally do out of annual revenues, but we've got some projects that we want to go ahead with that we want to do with this bonding. Also, there are projects that we can't fund under EFC financing. Most of what we've been trying to do in recent years has been EFC financing. We've also been trying to take advantage of water infrastructure improvements, grant funding, both for the Clean Water Revolving Fund and the Drinking Water Revolving Fund. And some of the improvements that we're doing can't be funded through, that wouldn't be eligible for revolving fund. There's work at 35 Erie Boulevard, and there's work at the Alcove that wouldn't be eligible. And right now is a good time to do the financing because interest rates are low. So that's the situation. So the new part is about $25 million. It includes water main work. It includes some water treatment plant work. It includes some sewer rehabilitation kind of projects throughout the city.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Any members have questions for Mr. Simcoe? I mean, we can do this in the planning committee. That way folks can get a better look and have a further discussion, but any questions? Okay, it'll be a referral to finance. Okay. All right, under resolutions held, we got Ms. Fahey's resolution 6/21/20R. That's actually going to be a part of the planning committee that's later on today, right? Is that what? Right.
Yes.
Excuse me, the General Services Committee. So we'll be voting on that depending on the outcome of that discussion. That was resolution 6/21/20R under resolutions held. And following that, item number 10, resolutions 5/11/21R and 6/11/21R. That's the reappointments to the planning board. Those came out of committee with positive recommendations. So those will be up for vote also. And that's it for the agenda. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Mr. Conti, you look like you.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, Monday, is the mayor doing State of the City on Monday?
No, it's the first.
Well, that is the first.
That is, yeah, it's, yeah, actually, right. Yeah, it's February 1st, 5:30. And that, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Do we need to notice that?
Right, it's our meeting. She's
Since we'll
presenting to us, right? Yeah. Michelle, can you?
I thought David, I'll talk to you off air. Yeah, there's some
Okay.
confusion about the notices, but.
Okay. Yeah, I vaguely remember that discussion. So, so that's any time. You got your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted to find out, because again, I feel like I'm in a vacuum with the letterhead and the seal. Can somebody from leadership explain to me what exactly is going on? And as a council, do we get any say at all or vote?
Yeah, we do. Those are decisions we all make together. As far as the I think you're talking about the difference between the branding and the seal. The seal hasn't changed. That's still what it is, and a part of our official documents, but the branding is a little bit different. And as you can see from recent correspondence, Michelle sent some stuff out, and there was, and actually I believe Danielle did also, with the branding. That's changing, and that has changed. And is that?
Yeah, that's my question. By am I required to use that? Can I continue to use the letterhead I've been using?
Yep, you can use. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. I just feel like left out, and it's like, this change. It's in the paper and everything, and nobody ever ran it by us. And I thought that would be something. Not that I'm against it or for it, but it would be just nice to be part of the conversation.
Right. Yep.
There's still going to be a broader conversation about all of this. I think that this was a temporary citywide shift, and we did not have that. This was not a consultation with us, but to kind of stick with the city's brand that's on the website because there is an overall process that is going to happen with the logo, the flag, everything. So I'm not sure if they're going to discuss assiduity either. Maybe think about using a word that more people know what it means. Maybe not. I don't know. But it's going to be a whole process that the council will definitely be involved in.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments? Mr. Igo, do you have your hand? No? Oh, okay. If not, at this point, we're gonna,
Mr. Anani has his hand up, Kelly.
okay.
I was just gonna say really quick, I don't mind assiduity. Actually, it was the bonus word for some of my kids during spelling quiz. But anyway, as many of you are aware, we are starting a conversation as relates to the flag, and I'm gonna send an email to colleagues. We're gonna try to put a committee together. So anyone that is interested in being part of that committee, don't hesitate to reach out. But yeah, just want to put it on your radar. Thank you.
Can I just clarify who's putting together a committee? Is this I'm just trying to understand. Is this a council committee or is it a
council committee? And it's going to
committee
be
with the executive or?
No executive committee. It's going to be, I will send an email and I'll explain everything and, make sure that it will be part of the leadership of everyone in the council. I'm not going to leave anyone in the dark, Tom. Everyone, whoever wants to be part of the committee, you're more than welcome. So I'll send an email out to discuss it.
Right.
I know that some people are afraid, not afraid of change. Like when change happens, it takes everyone aback a little bit, but I will say change is sometimes good.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm proposing nonpartisan elections. That's good change too.
Yeah, about that. But yeah, thank you. That's it.
Yep, conversation.
I know you're part of the power structure that doesn't like it.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. So we also have DGS here. Do you want to go into the do this conversation as a part of the caucus or into the General Services Committee? Because I can just have DGS start now, answer questions, and okay.
I think it was the same link that was shared, wasn't it? So we don't need to switch links.
Right. Okay. So we'll just.
I thought there was two different conversations. So the conversation at caucus was a conversation about snow emergency operation, and then general service was
about
the resolution. Which
is the resolution. So we'll thank you for that clarification, Michelle. We'll turn it over to DGS. Some of the members sent out questions ahead of time. It's regarding snow removal and the plans and all that stuff. So what I'll do is, Mr. Sergio, I'll turn it over to you or Frank.
Well, I'm going to ask Frank to share his screen because I'm electronically challenged. So when it comes to Zoom, so.
Okay,
first of all,
you're all set, Sergio. Go ahead.
Change the screen setting. We see the presenter view.
Okay, good. First of all, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to give a shout out to people who are here present, viewing through Facebook. I know there was a lot of members of the ASME. I see Alex Catello. I see CSCA, Teamsters, and Operating Engineers representative giving us their looking into this presentation. This is about a storm, Gale, which was the 8th largest storm in Albany history. The date of the storm was December 16th. Operation did not cease to stop until December 24th. We had a total of snow totals of 26.5 inches. We removed 62,700 tons of snow. That was a really tremendous storm. Just to give you a picture of what our employees have endured during the storm, and keep account that this was a week before Christmas. They would have been with their family and the loved ones. The snow between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m., we had an average of 1.2 inches to 1.5 inches.
Commissioner.
Similar to what we had today. But at midnight,
Commissioner, just really quick, sorry to interrupt. And this is for Kelly. From my schedule, it seemed like the meeting was for 6:30. And I know that some of my constituents are actually waiting to speak at 6:30 regarding this DGS meeting. So I just want to see what a clarification.
For the sidewalk ordinance.
Okay, so,
Sidewalk.
so
Yeah.
this is,
Which is
The
about
two-
snow removal also, Owusu. So
okay. Thank
Yeah.
you for the clarification.
So I thank, again, from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, we had about 3.5 inches to 4 inches per hour, which was unseen. And I had the most experienced operators telling me that they'd never seen a storm, a snowstorm coming down that fast, that that was unbelievable. The duration of the storm was 26.5 inches in 13-hour period, which is unheard of, even for the northeastern areas. This caused us to plow the same area several times. Many of them were stating that as they finished one street, they looked in the rear mirror, it looked like it was never done. That's how fast the snow was coming down. Delaying it for us to get into other areas sooner. So with that, the challenges that we had this storm, that's unlike the other storms, we had less staff other than the storm. We were down 24% of our staff. That's a mix between COVID and CDL drivers, that it's a shortage nationwide. Whiteout conditions for miles resulted in our employees driving slower for their safety. Reasonable, unable to move quickly as normal as they would normally would have. This slows down significantly our progress. The men and women of DGS work for 12 hours a day for 9 straight days, with an average of 108 hours per employee for those days. So they really did all this during a global pandemic and 1 week before Christmas, as I said before. So it was a tremendous cost. Sacrifice, sweat equity that our men and women in our department put together, which shows the dedication to the city and to their job. Our contractors cost, because again, we were short 24%. We had to hire more contractors than normally we would. It resulted to about $488,000. And our internal expenses was $952,000, which includes the manpower, equipment, and salt, and all the other peripheral areas that we spend in house. A total cost for the storm, which is about $1.4 million. So with that, we did a pilot program with the sidewalk. There was a specific crew which was hired by us, CEOs, which is a return to work company. They did 57 sidewalks. The amount was billed was about $11,000, which we get back when the fines and or are reimbursed to us. So this was a neutral balance budget for that. Just to keep clear, these people, these men, would have been an extra burden on us if we had to do this in-house. So we chose to hire the company. So with that, so now you have a better picture of what the storm entails. I'll open up the questions to anyone that has questions.
Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Igo, then Mr. Conti.
Yeah, so Sergio, I get, how much did the city budget for snow removal? I was looking at last year's budget and I couldn't find a specific number, but obviously when we budgeted, we didn't anticipate this snowstorm. So how much did we for the year actually exceed our snow budget?
So when you say, Mike, when you say budgeted, do you mean for snow contractors or for, you know, because it's all relevant. So snow contractors, we budgeted about $274,000 for snow contractors, but then another 700 and change for salt and for things like that. And then, you know, and then again, our workers and everything that, you know, we brought in, the other amounts that we brought in, that is an all-in number, which is fuel and the workers, that comes from other budget lines as well. I mean, it's not specifically snow, but it's in the budget.
Okay, but up until that storm, we were within expectations for finishing out 2000 without having to.
Yeah, if
Go into
you're
reserves.
talking about contractors and for snow, yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then I'm assuming that you feel you have enough equipment, but because of COVID, you didn't have enough staff. Is that correct?
Well, COVID is one. We had about 30 people out because of tracing. And actually 4 of them at that time were tested positive, so we couldn't have them here. The other 26 were because of their spouse had it or their son had it, and they were quarantined. That's one issue. The other issue was the CDL problem, and I just participated this morning in a conference with the industry, trucking industry, and again, it seems to be a nationwide problem with people getting CDL driver licenses. They are estimating roughly about 66,000 vacancies or shortfalls in the trucking industry. We have asked anyone that we could possibly have asked to provide us with employees with CDLs, and we're all in the same boat. If people are not going into a trade industry, they're all going into computer, they're all going into some other industry other than the trucking industry. But as of today, as a matter of fact, I have the gentleman's name here, and I quote from him. It says the driver shortage is a driving current environment. Market insights leader. They said the trucking industry has about 80,000 fewer available drivers compared to a year ago. The federal stimulus increased unemployment benefit and what they call couched. A lot of drivers who discovered they could earn more money by staying at home and being out instead of being out on the road, he said. The grant will allow the problem is also that there's people that are going more of an independent. They're buying their own trucks to make more money and becoming independent drivers. So there's an industry nationwide shortage of about 80,000. So it's a problem. And besides COVID, we lost 26% of our force. 24%, sorry.
Can we incentivize some of our DGS workers that don't have a CDL license to get a CDL license? Maybe even have some way of assisting them with that?
You're speaking to the choir. I have been working with Commissioner Jones through the workforce program. There are some grants available. We have contacted a certified instructor. We have canvassed our people. As a matter of fact, we discussed this with the union at our last union meeting. We have about 15 candidates that are current employees that are willing to take the course. We just have to work out the difference, which program they go into to the workforce, but we're working diligently. I hope, and I know that Commissioner Jones from Recreation and Workforce, we're looking to do an April class. This is going to be a 60-hour certified class, and actually that will bring at least a shot in the arm to us with 15 extra people that have CDL driver license. So we're trying to do it promoted within first, but getting candidates from the outside is becoming very, very difficult. Yes, we are doing that, and we're turning every rock that we could possibly turn to get CDL drivers here.
Is that an increase in pay, Sergio?
Yes, it is for a person that would go from a laborer position. And not only that's an incentive, the extra pay, it would become either a sanitation driver or a equipment operator later on. Once they get a CDL, it gives them an opportunity for advancement within the department, which is great. Like I said, I'm 15 people. I was impressed that they're willing to take the class.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Igo?
Sergio. I appreciate everything that your department and the guys went through, guys and girls. I was so excited. About 3 days after the storm hit, I went out to thank a man I thought was a city employee because he had I said, oh, you're a new heavy duty operator? And he looked at me like, what are you talking about? And he had this beautiful piece of equipment. And I said, well, where are you from? And he said, Cobleskill Landscaping. It was the best piece of equipment I ever had. He did push snow higher than you ever want to see. So that was great. Another couple of days I called up and I sent an email to David Gallen and I believe to Frank. And I was complaining about sidewalks from Mohav Shalom, okay, on Crumpkill Road where a lot of older people live. And that's the only way to get up to a bus. So a few days later, they come up and the bridge itself, sidewalk, was cleared, okay? They never came back, okay, and did the sidewalk from whatever, Ohav up until Route 85. You know when they finally came and did it? I was helping a elderly lady go up the street with her walker. I was driving, I pulled over, put my four-way flashers on, she was stuck. So just a coincidence, I see a city DGS truck, but it was a rack truck, broom, shovel sticking out of it. I said, hey, come here. So I thought he could help me with this lady. And you know what the guy told me? He said, that's not our responsibility, that's Parks Department. So something has to work out here. Parks does some of a sidewalk and then DGS comes back and does the other. I'm telling you, almost a month later now. Is that the reality of it?
Well, we do have some areas that we do and some areas that park do. I have to look into it. Crumpkill doesn't sound like it's a park department issue. It would be ours, but I have to look into it and figure out what went wrong there.
You didn't get a name? You didn't get a name, Joe?
Of the truck? No, and this was Monday, and that truck, next thing I know, I was coming back out, and there were about 5 trucks there. Were foremen, there was a yellow truck, was a green pickup trucks, and they looked like they were all shoveling and scraping the whole sidewalk. But it was dangerous. It was very dangerous for these people.
Next time something like that happens, Joe, just make sure that we are aware of it and get a number, get a name, get something when somebody says that to you. A number on the truck, something.
Well, how many rack trucks do you have with shovels on it and brooms sticking out of the back? You don't have that rack truck anymore. They used to pick up white goods with it. So you should be able to know on Monday.
No, we have a couple of rack trucks.
We have a couple of them.
Yeah.
There are 5.
Well, one of the foremen should know who sent them up there.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I will, and I try. And Frank, I know things were a little difficult. You're working from home. I called the 434 city number, and I just got disgusted with it. And I know some of the people were calling, so it can't happen to the elderly like that. They cut their buses, okay? They go there twice a day, and some of them try to walk up Buckingham or Crumpkill to Scotland Avenue. But with walkers the other day, she was walking in the street. It's not right. So I'd like that taken care of. And make sure, one crew thinks it's DGS is doing it and some things Parks doing it. There's a mix up there somehow.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Conti.
Thank you. And, I appreciate the work that employees did, and I understand the challenges with this particular storm, et cetera. I just wanted to get a couple of things. A little bit of a better understanding of when we say total city costs, if there is a little bit more of a precise breakout of what that is. You mentioned salt, overtime. I mean, it's a lot of money, the 952,000.
Well,
Joe, you're on, Joe.
Sure, I can address that. That number, the $1.4 million number for the entire storm, our in-house cost of $952,000. That's based on our labor rates, our benefits, and the value of the equipment used based on FEMA's rate schedule for the equipment.
Okay. So we're not, buying new equipment or pulling in new equipment in that respect. You're just putting a value on the equipment that you used, even though it's equipment that we own or et cetera.
That's correct.
Okay, so I don't know if that's really a cost, or is that,
That's how we value the storm itself.
okay,
I put a dollar value on it itself.
okay. And the contractors, I assume, were for, was that additional plowing or was that towing?
Plowing. There were two phases to the storm. There's plowing and hauling.
Okay. So one of the issues that I had noticed in some of my areas, again, was prior to the snow emergency actually taking effect at 8 a.m. You know, keeping the streets open so that vehicles are able to move from one side to the other. And then after the plows went through and you did some of the snow removal, was there a higher non-compliance rate with this storm than you've seen in previous ones? And one of my question is, you know, I did notice or saw numerous areas where the plowing was not really complete because vehicles weren't moved, they weren't towed, and I'm wondering to what extent we had, and I don't know to what extent people understood the rules, because we always have that issue every year, but to what extent was difficulty in compliance and the inability maybe to tow a factor in some of the issues as far as, you know, getting streets opened up? I mean, I had certain streets where you just couldn't, the street wasn't plowed enough so that people could even move their car out. And when they're digging out, they're throwing more snow into the middle of the street, which makes it even more difficult to move. And so areas like, you know, Willett was a particular problem. Streets in Park South were a particular problem, which was just a mess. And you could see people just couldn't move. The traffic was backing up. And if, you know, this was before the snow emergency actually even took effect. And then after it took effect, the vehicles that didn't move and that were never cleared out were impeding snow removal efforts. So the question comes down to levels of compliance and to what extent we have the ability to tow where necessary. Was that a factor?
Well, it was a factor, but it's completely anecdotal. I would defer to the police department for their numbers. I don't have their information because they're in charge of that. I was in direct contact with them. We had determined between ourselves and traffic that we'd get APD out about an hour ahead of us. So they were constantly about an hour in time ahead of us. When I would skip ahead, there was definitely quite a bit of non-compliance in neighborhoods. I mean, I can't give you a number. Again, it's just anecdotal, but I know we were definitely impeded. I know in one event we were stopped for close to 3 hours in removal because a resident decided they wanted to protest and parked their vehicle in front of our operation. So we were stopped for about 3 hours, but by the time that vehicle was cleared, and that put a big hole in our effectiveness.
If I might chime in, one of the factors is that because of COVID, people working from home, so there's a lot of non-moving cars anymore. We saw a tremendous increase. Even today, we had an increase because people working from home that they're not moving the car. They're not going to the office anymore. So we had that factor in as well. But
okay. I might have some more questions later, but I'll pass for any further.
Mr. Hoey?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. A lot of hands up, so I'll try to be real fast. Guys, I'm a lieutenant with the United States Air Force Civil Air Patrol. And when we have emergencies like this, I remember Hurricane Irene and there was another one right before Sandy, they had us go out and fly and photograph problems that flooded and stuff. So we were prepared. Okay, we've had a snowstorm, a big one. Will we have another one in 20 years, next year? We don't know. I mean, that's the way nature is. My question and suggestion is that we work together with the state, the county, and the city, working out what roads need to be clear, like the main thoroughfares, like Western Avenue, Washington Avenue, and then the main arteries that go into the residential areas. One of the things I pointed out in my questions that I put in ahead of time was it'd be nice for the common council members in their ward to try to identify medical and first responders to make sure that the roads to their houses are done so they can get out and get to work if they have to go to St. Peter's or Albany Met, or if they have to, you know, be a fireman and be able to travel. I think that's critical that we start looking at ways to, you know, prevent problems from happening. Now, you know, the good antidote is Garden Avenue. I had a nurse living on Garden Avenue and I got a call. The neighbors got together and did a path for her to get out to Magazine Street. And I mean, they didn't have to do that, but they made a little path. I went and I took pictures of it. To me, that was, you know, what it's about. We have an emergency happen and the residents work together. So that was one comment. And then the other comment I just heard, if we know we're going to get hit with a big snow, is there a way that we could do a snow emergency even before it starts snowing so that we're ready and people know that they have to move their cars rather than wait till after the snow, a day after? It's just a question I have. Thank you.
Well, first of all, we do have a list of streets that we get from the police and fire department. Again, this was a tremendous amount of snow in a short period of time, and I have to look at the police and fire. We didn't have a fire engine stock. We didn't have an ambulance stock. We didn't have a police car stock. There were some difficulties, some of the hills going up. Our problem was the volume of snow was coming down so heavy that we had to do what we normally do 2 passes on Washington Avenue, now took 6 passes to make sure that it happened. So, you know, this is something that we are looking at because if you remember last year, we had the same situation. It wasn't 26 inches, it was 23 inches. This is something that I feel it's the new norm. I don't know if it's global warming. I don't know if it's anything. We're looking at different techniques. We're looking at snow blowers. We're looking at snow melters. We're looking at, you know, we moved 67,000 tons of snow. Our snow dock was full to capacity. We had no more place to put the snow. So to answer your question about the emergency workers, I mean, you know, it would be a checkered map and we would never get done through the streets. We would never get done to the secondary street. If we have to go to street A to clear that up and then street Z at the other end of town, it would be too time consuming and we wouldn't be able to open up those emergency roads. I mean, I know that some people here have workers that are in the hospital, and I mean, some of our drivers have their wives that are nurses, and they're in the same situation. So I kind of understand the urgency, but I also have to look at the big picture that the police and fire have designated routes for emergencies. Those are my priorities. Those are our priorities. Then we go into our secondary street, and then we go to our tertiary street. To have a checkered map of this street is to be done because so-and-so, an emergency worker lives there, and then how we define the emergency worker. It becomes a mess. So something that we consider, but it's unrealistic because especially when there's a large amount of snow. I mean, today it wasn't a factor, but when we get 27 inches all at once, you know, it's going to be a factor. So, but I thank you for your comments.
Well, thank you. And, you know, with the public, I'm on the public safety committee. I'm going to ask Kelly to, maybe we can have a meeting where we bring in fire and police. I think we need to plan. And Sergio, we know we're going to get hit with another storm. And, you know, I don't want to see a loss of life because if we did a little bit more planning, maybe we need to get you guys more money. I mean, I'll do what's necessary to help you out. And that's all I'm saying. But just to throw up our arms and say, well, we can't do anything. It's nature. Well, no, we need to do something. And this is the new norm and we'll work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoey. Ms. Mr. O'Shea, and then after that, I lost. If anyone else, I'll have to raise your hand again. Okay.
If I can, so I'm sure that other people are going to address some of the other issues that my constituents raised. When initial press releases talked about going through the process, Commissioner, that you have talked about, then it was also noted that then after all that was done, then the corners would be cleared. I sent photos. I'm wondering if a staff member can put that up. I just sent it again. It's very clear to me that when the corners were cleared, that what happened was, can we scroll through some of those, the other photos in this document? Because this was throughout my ward where people cleared the corners, the sidewalk was perfectly cleared, and then somebody came along with a plow, probably a pickup truck with a plow, and then plowed the crosswalk, the snow on the crosswalk and at the corner, right up back onto the sidewalk. And there are still this next picture down there, if you could keep on scrolling through these pictures, the one at the top of the second page there, I was just walking by that again today. And people are shoveling a path around that. If you could, whoever is in charge, scroll through some more of the document. Or can I do that? I don't. So I'm wondering, so I have not seen this before. I understand that we've made an issue out of clearing corners so people can get to the street, and that a lot of times residents, homeowners in my neighborhood are diligently clearing the public sidewalk right down to the handicap ramp, and then people are in a crosswalk that is covered with snow. Today, as I was walking along the Hackett path that we are responsible for, it was interesting that apparently the contractor pulled up the blade as they approached the handicap ramp, and there was actually snow still on the recreational path along there in certain places, which was kind of mysterious. My husband pointed it out to me as we were walking around. But I'm very concerned about winding up with these huge piles of snow. And in this case, it's happening, apparently, 2 or 3 days after people have cleared the sidewalks, and it completely defeats the purpose of people having a walkable Albany. The reason why we talk about clearing the corners is so that people can walk. And then we've created a barrier for people to get from a clear sidewalk onto the crosswalk there, clearly in violation of ADA laws in terms of the city's role here. And I'm wondering, if you've taken a look at these pictures and if you have a different plan in the future.
Well, I think we can start by saying that that's what we're going to talk about in the next meeting. We're going to talk about the sidewalk ordinance that Kathy Fay has put forth, and some of the things that we've done that we're looking to do to further that. Currently, the code says that is the responsibility of the homeowner at the corner. And those photos were probably clearly taken well after the Christmas holiday, because there was quite a bit of meltage, you can tell in those photos. So, again, it's something we are working on, and we're going to talk about that, in detail for the next meeting.
Okay, so I just want to add, so the homeowners completely complied with their responsibility. And it is insulting and frustrating to say, now the city gets to plow its snow right back up onto the sidewalk and into those corners. And now homeowner it's your responsibility to come and clean up the mess that we just made in that area. That the city proactively created these huge mounds. And I gotta say, these were then mounds that were rock solid. It wasn't like what we all experienced on Christmas Day, soft snow. It was rock solid, and it would take a Herculean effort for homeowners to go in there and get some of these cleared. I want to say, and also some of it exists on that recreational path that is the city's responsibility.
I concede to that. We all concede to that. And again, that's what Kathy Fahey has put forth as an ordinance. That's part of what we're looking at. So
again, this is something that I want to make clear. This is not something that we do on purpose. This is something that the snow. The problem with clearing the snow on the corners, it's where do we put the snow? The second or third cut that we do, it brings that spillage, which we call spillage in the business, that covers that corner. It's not done on purpose. We don't particularly seek out handicap corners to put these piles in. It is a problem. We recognize it. Committee woman Fahey put that ordinance together. We have a potential solution to it, but it's going to require extra effort on our part, which will be addressed. But I want to make clear that this is not something that is designed to operate that way. And the ordinance does say that it is the responsibility of owner to upkeep the sidewalk as well. So to clear it once and say I'm done, again, I don't want to slice, and I don't want it just to get out of control. We recognize this as an issue. We hear the people, and we understand the frustration. But we think we have a potential solution, which we'll be discussing next week.
I need to refute that this is spillage. This was something different that happened this time that I've never seen before. And I have two homeowners who have told me that they saw the trucks specifically pushing the snow, not that they're coming around the corner or whatever. They push the snow right up the handicap ramp and across the sidewalk, and in a lot of cases, onto somebody's property, but in the process created these huge mounds on the sidewalk. I'm on a corner lot. I did not experience that because I don't have the dual crosswalk. It's not at an angle. I'm used to clearing the spillage, and I think most people don't mind doing that. But when the city is specifically taking the snow from the street and putting it specifically in the middle of these sidewalks, people are upset about it. So I just want to be clear, maybe you're not aware of this, but it's not spillage.
Right, okay. So, Miss
Kelly, I just know I had my virtual hand up.
Oh, I don't even see. Okay. So we'll go with Mr. Robinson, then Mr. Anani, and then Miss Love, and then Miss Fahey.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner, for being here. And
I see all these virtual hands. Jeez.
And I just want to just ask a question about the an operational piece. I know that all of the council members, as well as cities, received many complaints regarding the last major snowstorm. So my question is, and I don't know if this was addressed earlier in the presentation, but is there a specific start time for the amount of snow that we're expected to receive that DGS goes out and pre-salts the streets and some of the sidewalks according to the amount of snowfall? I know that we were down staff. So if you are down staff, do you start earlier or do you just set a specific time to start?
I'll ask Joe to answer the question because it's an operation question, but I could tell you that we look at several weather reports. We are usually, we started a practice a couple of years ago, which works well for our men and employees, where we come in at least an hour and a half before, sometimes even 2 hours before a prediction of the storm to start in our area. And we go out pre-salt and we do, first we do the problem areas, the known problem areas, which are the hills. Usually there's a lot of hills, there's a lot of area where for some reason the landscape makes that road freeze, and then we continue. So usually we are in, if the prediction of the storm is going to start like today, for example, yesterday, for example, the prediction of the storm was to start sometimes around 10 o'clock. We were in already, but we normally come in around 9, 10 o'clock and begin to make sure all of our trucks are ready anyway, but recheck the trucks and go out and start salting. So it all depends on the weather. Joe, am I missing?
No, our timing is 7 to 7. We do shift changes at 7 o'clock, so we always make sure we have a shift in prior to the commencement of snow.
Gotcha.
If it begins at 10 p.m., if it's scheduled to begin at 10, predicted to begin at 10 p.m., we'll have our crew in there at 7 p.m.
Gotcha. And so, okay, so for that 7 p.m. start shift for that last storm, did you have the full staff to start at that time, or would you have called more staff in because, you know, you were staff and for the volume of the storm, you needed probably more labor to get ahead of it?
No, we stagger. We can't commit all of our resources at the beginning of the storm. Because especially a storm of that magnitude that went on for days. So remember, we had to do cleanup after that. So we immediately started with the staggered shift. So it's about 50-50. About half of the staff is on days, half the staff is on nights.
Okay, thank you.
We have to follow OSHA regulations that we cannot hold our employees, which is also a safety regulation in our end. It's more than 16 hours, continuous hours without giving them at least a 4 to 6 hour break. But like Joe said, we start at 7, and then at between 7 o'clock and either it's a PM or AM, there's a shift change. And that's when the new crew, the fresh blood, comes in and continues the route where they left off or restarts the route.
Okay, and I just have one more piggyback question off of that. Are we looking forward to some type of program where we hire temporary workers to maybe take care of some of the problematic areas, such as our side streets, so that we don't have to run into those issues with OSHA and those regulations?
Well, OSHA regulation it goes across the board. It doesn't matter whether you're full-time, part-time. Just today, I had a conversation with our HR department. We're looking to do a per diem where you get paid by the day. Our problem is that most of the snow operation equipment requires a CDL driver license. And that's where it starts all over again with the vacuum of CDL licensed operators. That's number one. We have been proactively moving some of the equipment that we purchased new. Is whenever we can, we try to stay below the CDL driver license. So anybody with a driver license could operate a pickup truck, for example. But when it comes down to heavy equipment or a truck that has more than 26,000 pounds, then we're required by law to have a CDL driver. And there's a lot of reasons because of that, because of the air brakes, you know, all that stuff that goes on. So our priority is, and when you're talking about moving 26.5 inches of snow, you need that heavy equipment. The pickup truck is not gonna do well. It's gonna break a transmission. It's gonna break an axle. You need that heavy equipment. More of a reason why to have more CDL drivers, which we discussed earlier, in what our plan is to move forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Anani, it's Mr. Anani.
Thank you so much. First off, just this was a big one in December. It's probably one of the biggest storms that we have witnessed in the past 20 years. I think the last time we had a storm like this, I think it was Michael Jordan's rookie year with the Bulls. But I want to thank my union brothers and sisters who also is on this call. I want to appreciate every work that individual that I'm muted. Okay. My questions was, well, I have 3 questions and also just suggestion, just moving forward. My first question is more so, how was compliance with like the city sidewalk snow removal rules?
Well, we, over a 6-day period, because we have to wait 24 hours till it's over, we ended up 57. I don't have the compliance of, I can't give you an overall, 20%, 50% complied. I can tell you 57 sidewalks were cleared by us, by CEO or by us. And we billed those property owners a total of a little over $11,000. So, and this one was, by the time we get out there, and we start working it, we start doing it. Then we had, of course, the Christmas holiday, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, it melted. A lot of it melted. So we did hit some of it, but by that point, a lot of it was already gone. So, CEO did quite a bit of it, and they did a good job, but it was 57 of them total.
Gotcha. Yeah, and at 10th Ward, one of the complaints that I did hear, I think it was just a street on Morris Street between Partridge and Quell Street, where I believe one of the staffers who was driving the truck, I think he hit a pole and the car was damaged and couldn't go any further. And it seemed like that individual did not communicate with central staff. I just think that just moving forward, just kind of remind staffers if there's any damages to the vehicle, just to kind of report back, because I guess it was reported that there was somebody that went through, but we saw that he was stuck for a couple of hours and wasn't able to get through some of the streets. And I also want to piggyback of what Councilmember Robinson said as it relates to having workforce on reserves, right? In the city of Albany, particularly, there are certain parts of in our city where unemployment rate is as high as 23%. Unemployment rate as high as 23%. And I know that some people are not able to qualify for the full-time jobs because they need the license, they need that. But if we could get some more people, particularly where we're seeing high activity in violent crimes, if we could get some of those members of those communities working per diem, whether it's $50, $100, anything helps. And it helps the residents of the city and making sure that the neighborhoods, the sidewalks, the snow removal are also cleared and the streets are also cleared. And my next question is more so the amount of overtime. Can anyone just speak about the amount of overtime that was hours of spent that was in overtime with this snowstorm? And if there's a way that maybe moving forward, we could hire more staff instead of paying people to do more overtime? Because I think about it as a morale issue, right? If we have more people doing overtime, they're not all able to rest. They have to get back out there agitated. I think sometimes it conflicts with the work that they're doing. In the 10th Ward specifically, I saw one gentleman, he worked like 12-hour shifts. And every time I saw him, I was like, man, you got to take me out. But it was a lot. He was out there literally 6 days straight. And I want to thank him for being out there for that amount of hours. But I also was thinking about his safety and making sure that everything was going well. So I just want to bring that up as relates to just overtime.
Owusu, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a challenge, and anybody else on the call, find those people for us. Yeah. Okay. We'll put on seasonals. We are looking for people. And where Sergio said earlier on the call, it's a real thing. The stimulus, unemployment numbers are real. People don't want to come back to work because they're making more not working. We're hearing it from all kinds of industry professionals. So you find people, as long as we'll hire them,
So, all right, that's great. I'm going to speak with council members, and we're going to start like a portal for anyone that want to work per diem and I'll speak to leadership after this to kind of send some type of resumes, because I fail to believe that there's not individuals that wouldn't mind going to shovel, a sidewalk You know, like you said, we made $11,000 off for non-compliance with our sidewalk rules. So I believe that there are more people that will be interested in doing those type of jobs. But yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. And
let's be careful because we have bounded by contractual agreements with the unions.
Yeah.
You know, we need to respect that, and we need to make sure that we don't violate. Like we hired some extra help, the retirees. We asked 5 retirees to come back to us, but we had to make sure we conform with the current signed contractual bargaining unit. So we just can't go and say, we're paying you $50, go out there, while a union member might be sitting home. So we're working on it. It's in the infant stages with HR about per diem.
Yeah.
And then we could talk about that.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I just want to just commend you for the per diem suggestion with HR. I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think it's going to solve all the problems that we face as a city, but I think it's a step in the right direction. And I want to thank all your staff and also the workers at DGS for what they do for our city.
Thank you.
Oh, and for the record, snow removal in the city of Albany was much better than Troy and Schenectady. Just saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Ms.
much.
Love, Ms. Fahey, and then Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Sergio, for coming tonight. I got a couple questions. When the snowstorm stopped and you have to be on the even side of the street after the snowstorm stops, then after 24 hours, you're supposed to move to the odd side. Well, I had a row of cars that got tickets because on First Street between Lake and Judson never got touched. So after 8 o'clock, some of the cars were trying to get on the other side, and must have been 10 cars that got a ticket. They called the police department. The police department told them they didn't have to move, but we know what happened after that. I got maybe 15, 20 calls that these cars had tickets on them. So are you working in conjunction with the police department early enough to let them know some of these streets had not been hit yet?
We communicate, and Joe could attest to this. We communicate with the fire department and police department constantly. The problem with the storm is the massive amount of snow. It slowed us down tremendously. Normally, we know that takes us, 45 minutes to do a block on the left side. The amount of snow that was falling and that had fallen, it slows us down tremendously. Compound that with buses being stuck, compound that with non-compliant residents, it slowed us down tremendously. So yes, we do tell the police department, these are the streets that we intend to be in. Unfortunately, during the storm, we could not get there by the time that was addressed. But Joe, you want to add to that?
Yeah, just the sheer volume slowed us down significantly. We had every piece of equipment running that we could. We had over 100 trucks, private trucks hired to assist us. Normally we could do a snow emergency in 48 hours. It actually took us 6 days to get all the way through. So it was a lot of snow to move.
And also to give credit to DGS, in the middle of the snowstorm, we realized that we needed more trucks, and we activated the DOT emergency line. We had over 80 trucks from DOT that were coming from everywhere in the state. We were able to deploy them, no charge to us, thank God, but we were able to sound our bell. And that's why when when Councilman Owusu said, we fared, even though the complaints are there, and I'm not trying to make light of the complaints, I'm not trying to minimize them, as compares to other communities where some streets were 3, 4, 5 days before they saw a snowplow. That really did not happen in Albany, and I think we can compare street by street and operation by operation. We fared well because we were able to ring that bell on an emergency. But I do understand that the frustration with the residents that assumed that we were going to be there, and we wanted to be there. And the police department again assumed that because normally we would have been there, but it slows us down tremendously that unfortunately those individuals got tickets.
And I know you do the major streets first. I mean, that's not an issue. But I got at least 15 complaints. You plowed First Street, Lower First Street, around where the mayor lived at, but Hall Place and St. Joseph Terrace didn't get touched for at least 3 days.
I can't imagine that was true.
Well, I'm only telling you, I got the.
No, I know.
I know.
So I'm only telling you, I got the calls.
Right.
So,
right.
And granted, I know that, you know, the major streets need to be plowed first. I just want to say that I think that DGS did a good job with this storm, as far as I'm concerned. But we had a truck that came down Sheridan Avenue. We did a good job over here at Sheridan Avenue with our residents. A couple of our residents have a snowplow, so we have a business across the street. But we did hijack one of your trucks coming down, so that's how we got snow removed over here quickly. But I just want to let you know, Sergio, I have my CDL license, so you can call on me at any
time. Anytime. We would love to have you here.
I just need a stool.
Wow.
To get on.
Joyce, we're going to put you to work.
We're going to put you to work. Don't say that.
I do have my CDL license.
We have a yellow vest just for you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm next. Joyce, that is really neat that you have your CDL license. So first I want to start by saying thank you to all the staff that worked on this storm. I understand all the challenges that you had. And you know, we do have to wonder about climate change and if this is, you know, the kind of snowstorm we're going to see more frequently. And I'm glad you're thinking of ways to address these kind of snowstorms. So I know that, Sergio, you're really interested in, actually all the staff, in developing new systems and so on, and you know you're doing a great job of collecting data and so on. So I wonder if there are some new systems that you know that you'd like to put in place so that there's better communication between law enforcement and DGS as far as where we need the towing. And also, I noticed when I was looking for what they're doing in some of the other cities with regards to snow on sidewalks, Syracuse puts a map online as to where they have plowed. So it's something residents can look at to see what streets have been plowed. You know, it's one of those things, just greater transparency type of thing. And I don't know if you've ever considered something along those lines, but just, you know, how we were talking about, you can't get down narrow streets a lot of times because people haven't been able to move their car over, or they haven't moved their car over. And then sometimes it's hard to circle back and get to those streets. So can you talk a little bit about ideas for addressing some of those issues at all?
Well, I thank you, Councilwoman Fahey. We are looking at every single possible technology that's out there. Yes, we are looking at the mapping so that we could show on a website where we are and where we plowed and where we didn't plow. Yes, we're looking at that. We're also looking at conserving salt. We're looking at going to a brine system. We wanted to do it this year, but because of COVID, we couldn't do it. So this year we're pushing that forward. We're looking at snow melters. We're looking at, you know, the center square, for example, where it's tight and trucks and can't make the turn because of the extra snow and the cars that are parked in the corner. We can't really make the turn. We're looking at perhaps exploring the possibility of either renting a snow melter and melt the snow at an intersection, for example, and bring 4 streets into a snow melter and melt that way, so that we don't have to haul it. We don't have to haul anywhere. It's more be expedition inspected. So we are looking at different technology that's available to us, and also we're asking people, does that work? Because what worked for Syracuse might not work for us, and we're looking at with a very open mind. We're talking to a company that is out of Long Island who stores their snow melters at the airport. And we're talking to them about, you know, what is the possibility of us getting that machine in case of a big storm. So yes, we are looking at everything and how to do more things efficiently and more things safely for our guys and our staff and provide a better service. This storm was unique. This storm was unprecedented, but just the sheer volume of the snow coming down. Again, 6 hours of 4 inches an hour was unheard of. And I have to say, this might be the new norm. I don't know. But last year we had one. This year we have one. Good. I'm going to get ready for the next one because it's going to happen. It might not happen. I hope it never happens. But that's something that, blame it on, I don't know, global warming or something. I don't know what it is. But this seems to be the Northeast trend. And this is what we're hearing from our other colleagues in other regions. So yes, we are looking to different things.
All right, thank you, Sergio.
So, hello. The first thing that I want to talk about is Charles Street in the 2nd Ward. Every snowstorm since I've been a councilman, they have had to call me to get someone to come over there and plow out. And it's from my understanding that many of the residents park their cars behind their house in the alleyway to try to, assist DGS, but only to get stuck in the alleyway because it's constantly forgotten about. So one thing that I would like to ask is, what plan do you have to address that?
This year, this storm was a unique storm, and we had complaints from alleyways. One of them was Hamilton, I believe it was an alleyway. We had a few of those, and we did have to send a Bobcat. We can't send a regular plow. We can't send a truck because it won't fit.
Commissioner, could you answer the question is Charles Street? Because like I said, they constantly, like if someone doesn't make a phone call, they get overlooked, and they shouldn't get overlooked. They should, that should be in the plan. And what I'm asking is, where is that going to be? How do you plan on addressing Charles Street?
I'm answering you that Charles Street is on a route. It's on a snow route. It might be a tertiary street, and it will get done after we've done the main avenue and the secondary street. So for people on Charles Street, they need to be patient and the alleyway will be done with a specialized piece of equipment that we have to trail there and do that.
So you also mentioned being responsible for street cleaning, and it is to my understanding that when that whole process was presented to the community, how many volunteers did y'all have assisting you?
For
Street cleaning, volunteers for street cleaning, because it was presented that that I think it was that they would have college students to help out senior citizens that
Yeah, I don't,
I've never heard.
no. Street cleaning for snow?
for snow removal for handicap residents, for the elderly. It was a conversation, and I don't think that Sergio would be a part of that conversation because that happened before he came on board. But I know that I witnessed the conversation that they presented, that they would have volunteers who would help out in those situations. And so my question is, there's no question about it. It was a big snowstorm, but I've grown up being around. Snow is a part of our winters, and as I listen, I feel like I'm listening. I'm hearing you say the last time we talked to you that you couldn't find sanitation workers. And now I'm hearing you can't find CDL drivers. So one of the questions I would like to know is, how many workers are you down in sanitation? Can we get a number of vacant positions?
Dan, you want to chime in on our
sanitation? The actual laborers, it's probably only about 2 positions currently. I'm in the process of hiring multiples. It's mainly the drivers we're talking about with sanitation. Again, because it's a CDL requirement. Right now, we have 14 positions open that require CDLs. And it's not just somebody that can walk in off the street that's got a CDL, just got their CDL. Sanitation, it's a little easier to fill, but some of the equipment operator positions, you need more experience with, the loaders, the dump trucks, the plowing. You need some type of experience. But right now, currently, with the CDL requirements, it's 14 open positions. And I would say roughly, probably 8 of those are on sanitation.
So, I just know that personally, I know a number of people that got their CDL, and then once they got their CDL, it seemed like the expectation changed, and that they were asked to come in on the weekend and practice.
Yeah, the training program that we had in order to get positions under the former commissioner.
That's not what I'm talking about, Mr. DeLillo. I'm talking about people who got the job.
As far as the training on the weekends, that was done from the prior commissioner. No training was to be done on the clock. It was done on weekends because of a grievance we received from the union. Currently, we are doing training on the clock based on what crews you're on. That was the case at one time where they were only doing training on weekends. That was under the former commissioner.
And my last question, because you mentioned unions, it's been, I've received several calls about the union president and vice president supervising supervisors. And I just, I found that to be odd. And I was wondering if somebody could speak to that.
I don't understand the question.
The union vice president and president are supervising their subordinates.
Which union are you talking about?
I don't have you got 2 unions in there, right?
Yeah, well,
the supervisors union, which has a vice president and president, but they're supervisors, so they would be in that union.
I just understand, a complaint was filed with me and written to me that was shared, and it was a lot of opposition to the fact that the union, the union people were reporting directly to you, and in the past it didn't go like that.
No, what happens is, if I understand correctly, is we have a supervisor union who, there are supervisors that supervise different divisions. Now, who did it choose to elect as president and vice president? We have no say on it. And it might be that a president of a supervisor union might be supervising another supervisor, which is not in conflict with, it's not in conflict with union rules. I don't understand the question. But we don't choose who gets elected to be their representative in the union.
That's not what I'm saying. You know, like I said, I don't work down there, and all we do is receive calls. And, you know, I wanted to see if someone could speak to that, because I've heard it in more than one direction in terms of people having concerns with that. It just started being like that. It wasn't like that. And it wasn't like that historically in that department.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just trying to understand what was the need for the change.
I can't answer that because I don't understand the question. There's a supervisors union, and supervisors are in charge of each division. They supervise not only supervisors, but they also supervise the blue collar workers or whatever it is, the seasonal, whatever. And they're in charge of a division. And whoever that union decides to elect us, I can't answer that question. I'm sorry, you got me stumbled.
So I guess from me being a part of a union, union members can't supervise each other.
So they can.
Well, that's the union that I'm involved, that our union members can't supervise each other. So maybe it's different in your union.
Well, maybe it's different.
So that's why it seems, you know, abnormal to me.
Abnormal. It could be.
But the people who are working, you know, I'm not following that concern. It's the people that brought it to my attention. So I'm just trying to understand, if your union operates different, someone should be able to speak to that. I'm looking for clarity, because I don't know. And like I said, in our union, that can't happen.
Yeah. So, hey, why don't we get some clarification on the questions, and if we need to take this up at another general services meeting. This meeting was for the purpose of doing, talking through the snow removal issues. Maybe Mr. O'Brien, you can work on setting something up where we can get GGS back, and maybe we can get them the questions prior to that to make this, because we seem to just be going round and round and not getting anywhere. Mr. Johnson, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize for that.
Yeah, do you want to go in? Do we have to sign off and sign back in, or is this going to?
Yes, you have a different general service meeting.
Okay, so what we need to do then, I know Ms. Farrell has a question, and I believe Mr. Ballerin had a question also. We'll finish up with them, and then we'll close out and get to the next meeting.
I will be very brief. I just wanted to say a big thank you. I know I appreciate my my colleagues bringing up different ideas. I think there are some good ideas that were shared, but I also am very aware of how hard your department was hit during COVID and how hard you guys worked just around the clock to really move things forward. There's a couple of continual, like, smaller problem areas that I'll share. I think that they probably fall off the radar a bit, like the cutouts in the bridle path, things that should be taken care of last. And I'm very fortunate that when I talk through the process with my constituents, they do understand. Everybody wants the ambulances to get through. Everybody understands that the main thoroughfares should be taken care of first, and we want that. And we have a neighborhood association meeting tomorrow night, so I'm going to be just double checking with that. So I'll follow back up, and if there's like little pieces that can kind of continually fall off, I'll make sure that you guys are aware so you can follow up. But just wanted to say a big thank you, because we know that you and your teams work really hard.
Thank you, Jenny, for your support.
Can I go now, Kelly?
Yes, sir. We saved the best for last.
I don't know if that's the case. Okay, I'll be as brief as possible. I know, because we have another meeting to go to. I think it's important that we don't just say thank you, but that we actually compensate people for their work. I think that, to hear that we're 24% down in our staffing, and then to hear again that individuals are deciding to take unemployment versus working, that's not a hit on the individual. I mean, if you've done labor, if you were out there that day and you spent hours shoveling snow, if you were out there and you've done labor yourself, that is serious physical work. And
make any complaint, have a copy of their contract.
Well, my point being is, this has been an issue that was brought up in the summer. And, I would ask that we do a review of how we are compensating our staff versus other municipalities, so that if that is an issue, it can be addressed, in the budget process, so that we can fix that issue. Because to hear we're 25% down, and to hear that, individuals, are choosing other options versus us, makes me think we need to do a little bit better. And it's got to be more than just a thank you. I think we're all very appreciative. I think all of us that were out there ourselves trying to shove ourselves out and shove our neighbors out know how much work and efforts are being done. I just wanted to make that point because I know it's been made by other council members as well throughout the years. So I want to bring it back because it affects the services that our residents are getting. So it's all circular. The other issue that I wanted to bring up was these giant hills of snow and the traffic issues that they created on certain intersections. And if I'm not sure if there's any coordination with traffic engineering regarding streets that are narrower than others. I'll give you the one that I got phone calls about was on North Lake and Western Avenue. To make that turn with the hills of snow is complicated. So if that can be looked at, that'd be totally appreciated. I also want to find out how many total CDL drivers do we normally have compared to how many we are out?
Well, as I said at the beginning, we had about 24% of our staff either because of COVID or because of, so we were operating at a loss to begin with. We normally have, Dan, can you help me out on this? How many CDL drivers do we have? But some of the CDL drivers are equipment operators, so it's hard to add them all up, but.
Yeah, I don't know the actual total we normally have. I don't have that at my fingertips. Like I said, I know we do have 14 openings right now. Joe, I don't know if you have it because of the work orders. You might have it more.
Yeah, I have a better number. I need 54 to get through a 24-hour snowstorm. And this last one, I had 32 available to me. That doesn't include sanitation. We'll make up the rest either with contractors or per diem, wherever we can find them.
So we're heavily down.
I'm about short 22.
So my last 2 points are going to be suggestions. One other suggestion would be how we can incentivize our staff to take the course, but also do the training to be able to handle the equipment. And if that means paying people to go through that process, I would encourage that. And I know that may be an additional burden on our budget, but let's figure that out because it's a burden on our residents when, they don't feel safe driving on the streets. And this may be more for the next conversation, is other municipalities have little wagon type plows that plow through heavy streets. So on Western Avenue, if you live in the town of Gilliland and you get plowed in, the municipality actually plows those sidewalks out. I'm not sure if we've looked at that for our heavily plowed streets because it's not fair. And I know it falls back on the homeowner, but it's not fair when you've been out there, when you're a senior and you've shoveled your snow, you've done everything right, and then you go back out there and it's been plowed back in to have to do it again and again and again. So that was something that I was made aware of from a different municipality that's just next to us that I'm not sure if we're looking at doing here.
I like to end in a positive note. And I know, Committeeman Ballerin, you've been very, very supportive, and you've been very vocal about looking to increase staff. Every time we lobbied you, you were always positive, and I thank you for that, and my department thanks you for that. I think what we fail to realize, at least not DGS, but our administrative staff knows this. But I think what some people out there fail to realize that we have a tremendously dedicated workforce. For me to put a sign out and say, hey, I am willing to give you a class. Are you willing to take it? And for 15 people, before even the ink dried, said, I'm it. These people are self-motivated. They're just not being offered the opportunity. And we're looking to create that. I think we have a dedicated staff. I think we have a dedicated workforce, a committed workforce. And it's ironic that we're sitting in a meeting, and I know they're watching, and whole day here is, here's a complaint, here's a complaint, here's a complaint, here's a complaint. I talk to my staff daily. I talk to, from the laborer to the guy that cleans my office to the equipment operator to my deputy commissioners. And two guys told me just the other day, says, you know what, the governor, he was jogging and he stopped his jogging thing and says, you know what, guys, you're doing a great job. Thank you for doing a great job. I don't think our guys hear that enough from the council, from the public. They always hear the negative stuff. And yes, pay goes a long way. It's a motivating factor. But for these people, these hardworking people who, let's not forget the picture. They left their home during the Christmas holiday, left their kids home, their wives home, who they're bound to protect and for everything, and came in and put in 12, 16 hours consecutively for 9 consecutive days to only hear the negative things. If the council wants to help us lobby for more money. If the council wants to help amplify what DGS is saying, that the hardworking men and women of the department are doing what they can, and there has to be some reasonable expectation. They don't hear that. They hear that the nurse on street X could not get out of work and call the councilman or call the mayor or call the newspaper and said, I couldn't get to work. Shame on them. They didn't plow my street. When we talk about motivating factor, when we talk about the passion that these people have, they have it. It's just not appreciated, and or if it is, it's not vocalized enough. I mean, I hate to, and I want to conclude with this because I'm so passionate about it, because I see what these men and women go through every day, and we have problems. We all have problems, and we have differences of opinion, But I'm glad that the union is here today to witness the unpleasantness with the consistent commitment of these employees who day in and day out during a pandemic pick up the garbage, during the 27-inch storm left their family, during a time of need. They sacrificed everything to come and to only hear the bad things. I tell this to my staff. I tell this to my supervisors. Don't only highlight the negative. When somebody needs to be pat in the back, give a pat in the back. And the feeling, Commissioner Baldwin, the feeling is that when the fire department has a fire, they're not brought in and questioned about, the hose should have been sprayed on window B, or you didn't put enough water on window A. When a policeman have a shooting or they have a bank robbery, they're not brought in front of council saying, well, you should not have done that. You should not have given the ticket. But DGS misses one tulip, misses one park, misses one garbage. We're all painted. And that's all I want to end it. I appreciate council. I thank you for giving us the opportunity to explain the tremendous force that we went through. But I think if councilmen were asked me, and they ask me all the time, I know Wusu asks me all the time, and I know Beldarian asks me all the time, and Faye asks me, and Joyce Lovett, what can we do? Amplify that there are reasonable expectations. 27-inch snowstorm, 2 hours later, you're not going to be able to get out of your driveway. That's an unreasonable expectation. I could have had 60 plows. I could have had 100 plows. You couldn't do that. Amplify that instead of saying, we're wrong, we did something wrong, we didn't do it fast enough, we didn't do it the right way. That is all I'm saying, and I thank you, and I'm looking forward to go to the next week.
I'm just going to give a little pushback on that, Sergio. I think everybody here appreciates
our workers, absolutely,
of the men and women that were put in 12-hour shifts in very difficult situations, and it shouldn't be seen as a negative that we bring you in and ask you, what else do you need? What else can we work with you to bring up? What other ideas that are out there being used in different municipalities can we try to bring here? And what are the resources? And I know I'm not the only person that has said, let's try to find more resources. And when you come looking for resources, I don't think we've said no. I think any equipment you've asked for, if you ask for more staff, I don't think we would say no. I'm not going to speak for the full council. I know I wouldn't. So I don't think and I hope you don't see it as a negative conversation. I don't want you to see it. I don't want your staff to see it as a negative conversation. It's just sometimes we can look at an issue and say, okay, a lot of work was put into it. What worked? What didn't work? What can we borrow or steal from somebody next door? And what do we need? What resources do we need? And how can we put that in the pipeline so that when this happens again, because you're right, Sergio, this is going to happen again. It happened. We had a rough one last December. This one was.
And we go forward to the General Services Committee meeting now.
I just didn't want
to. A lot of these issues are going to come back up.
Yeah,
and we do appreciate it.
Okay, hold on, Mr. O'Brien. Thank you for that, Mr. Ballerin. I have a number of council members wanting to chime in and push back on that because we support our workers, every department. So that's not the case. I'm sorry if you feel like we're being negative. Just criticisms. There was a lot of issues, and let's not dwell on them. Let's just figure out how we can do better going forward and move on.
I'm just relying the feelings of my people.
So right, I understand that. So
I am just a messenger. Don't shoot the messenger.
Right.
I'm the messenger.
With that, well, right, but we're the messengers for a lot.
Okay, and I will replay the message back.
But okay, so with that, let's adjourn this meeting and head into our general services meeting. Mr. O'Brien.